This is it. This is the figure that got me into figure collecting. But how? Well, let's go back to April 2020. I was a graphic novel reader and collector, and I just finished Lock and Key and found myself stuck not wanting to read much of anything else in the form of graphic novels. And the pandemic screwed up a lot of things, so I couldn't really go to the house. So I turned to manga. Now, I read Death Note and the Warcraft manga in the past, and I watched a ton of anime, so I decided to pick up the Rise of the Shield Hero series. Fast forward 1 year later, and I got myself a sizable manga collection, and I see some empty space on my shelves, and I thought, maybe I could put an anime figure or two in that space. So I searched anime figures in Google, and Solaris Japan came up, and after flipping through some pages, there she was, Mei Raiden. My heart stopped. I had no idea who she was, but the figure spoke to me, like literally spoke to me, and she said, "Buy me, and I'll ensure you'll be broke forever." This freaked me out a bit, because it was one of those red pill, blue pill moments, and after deciding to do the right thing, I pre-ordered her, at least the standard version of her. And then I installed Honkai Impact and simped on ensuring that she was my strongest character. Time went on, and I started to realize who Mei Raiden was, and then I started to dread that I made a mistake. A big mistake. What if I get the wrong version of her figure? All the other Honkai Impact figures that I collected while waiting for her only had one version. The choice was easy. But with Mei Raiden, there were two. So like simping for Mei Raiden in the game, I ordered the deluxe version as well. And there you have it. This is why I have two boxes, and why I consider Mei Raiden as my holy grail figure. Not only was she the most anticipated figure I ever wanted, this Mei Raiden figure was the first pre-order I ever made. The figure that pushed me over the edge to start collecting anime figures. Now I know, I've been wanting to make this unboxing video forever. So starting with the unboxing, the boxes are near identical from the outside, except one has a white top while the other has a black top. And it's when you lift the outer boxing, that is when you can see which figure is which. I do want to say that the boxes are really nice and beautifully printed, but incredibly large. Now pulling out Mei Raiden for the first time gave me goosebumps. And yes, I know how ridiculous that sounds, it is a piece of plastic. And I did unbox the standard version first, saving the best for last. But to my dismay, my standard version came broken. Yep, a piece of her pauldron broke off, but lucky for me, the piece was still in the box. And having some experience with broken figures, I glued it easily back into place. However, this left me dreading opening up the deluxe version now, since I've seen a few folks say that they found the full pauldron broken when receiving it. Lucky for me, my deluxe version was fine. Now the instructions of putting the figure together were a bit involved. Now I do want to say that each figure came with this transparent print of Mei. It's a really cool idea and it's based off the scene you see here. Though I wish it had a bit more color on it because the colors are really faded. I do want to say that putting her in her base is pretty straightforward, though you do have to tug on her hair a bit to get it to snap in. The instructions say to use a hairdryer to heat up the plastic if you have difficulty moving it into place. This suggestion sounds a bit scary, and while I've used hairdryers to reshape parts of my figures in the past, I hope that nobody has to use this approach. And her sword, Domain of Sanction, was a bit tricky to get in at first. I found that pushing it in the back of the hilt, since it was thinner, and then turning it into place was the best approach here. And I do want to call out, putting in her Halo back piece was much easier than the Ei Sakura back piece. But overall, putting her together was pretty easy. Now let's talk about the differences between the two. The first major call out I have is the base. While the shape of the bases are very generic, Apex really screwed up by not painting the standard version base. Leaving the standard version of the base unpainted makes it feel cheap. And on top of that, the base feels like cheap plastic, which makes it feel twice as bad. The standard version should have got the same painted base as the deluxe version. Next difference. Aside from the obvious halo and floating arms in the deluxe version, the next big difference is the large sword. The hand is fixed to the sword in the deluxe version, making it impossible to convert the deluxe version to make it look like the standard version. If you were able to do this, it would be a no-brainer. Everyone should buy the deluxe version. That way they can display the figure in both ways. But unfortunately, it wasn't designed that way. And that's about it. The figurines themselves are identical. Now diving into the details of the figure itself, there is so much detail in everything here. The sculpt is so well done. For example, her stockings. You can see the fabric wrinkles in the right places. It's something they didn't have to do, and no one would have said anything about it. But I do appreciate the small attention to detail here. I find that her face and hair are just perfect, and the detail in the paint on both the swords also stand out. Especially the hilt on the Domain of Sanction. It is so well done. And not to mention the complexity of the floating gauntlets. I know it's easy for your eyes to get caught by the large red armor of the gauntlets, but if you look closely, the fingers are really well crafted, and I feel a lot of folks will overlook them. And lastly, the halo. It really matches the character and the figure. It really brings out the sense of epicness. Like, the whole package of the deluxe version is really breathtaking, and it will definitely grab people's attention when placed among other figures. Now typically I give the figures that I open a rating, but since this is my holy grail figure, it's obvious that I'm going to rate the deluxe version a holy grail out of 10. I'm clearly biased, but I'm certain for those that pick up this figure, they won't be disappointed. Now the standard version, the unpainted base kills the figure. If only they painted it like the deluxe version, it too would have been perfect. But then it gets me thinking, I don't care much for the standard unpainted base, so I'm probably gonna repaint it myself and fabricate some stone debris diorama around it. So to conclude, if you're on the fence between these two figures, the deluxe version is the way to go. It's a bit more bulkier, so displaying figures behind it won't work like the standard version of the figure, but it clearly feels like the masterpiece here, and worthy of my holy grail figure status. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. If you enjoyed it, do the YouTube things because it really helps the channel out. August and September are going to be really busy months, since hopefully I have a lot of pre-orders coming in. But here's a sneak peek as to what you might expect in a future video. But until then, I hope to see you all again soon and take care.